Hey everyone, Victra here with a long overdue video. A couple months back, I held my very first Q&A for Main's Quest Demo 2, just as a way to interact with friends and fans of the project. I was actually really surprised with how many questions I got, way more than I was expecting. However, some of which actually have to be cut or saved for a later time, due to the answers kinda leaning more into spoiler topics that may be explained by the game itself. Consider this a way to keep some surprises for you guys when you guys actually get the game in your hands. Whenever that is. You know, I'm laughing nervously because it's supposed to be funny, but I'm also kinda like, Anyways, all of these questions were sent anonymously. Though I can probably identify a few individuals. Also, time for obligatory plug, play Main's Quest on itch.io and GX Games, links are in the description. With all of that out of the way, let's get to answering some questions. Is Mein a boy or girl? Mein is male, as far as I've considered, though not many design elements lean into masculine features. Never really thought about it before, but I am very curious if anyone did believe Mein was female at some point, just based on the design alone. I want as many people to connect with Mein as possible, so it's an interesting thought, but he is male just because I like to call him a little guy. Will your game have any Easter eggs? So far, there is only one small reference I put into 1-1 that is only accessible after you have gotten the pogo attack. I would like to do more small references to either myself or other friends' games, but I'm not exactly sure how to go about it. I feel like before Mein can really have crossovers with other characters, I kinda have to establish his own world as its own first. Do you intend for Main's jump attack to be only usable in the air once, or will that change further in development? This was designed intentionally. To compensate for its fast speed and full coverage, I wanted to reduce the range and only allow it to be used once in the air. This was mostly due to dashing and double jumping covering a lot of ground, and having 2 attacks means it's easier to swat away all obstacles, so by limiting its use, the player has to be smart about timing and positioning to properly speedrun stages. This is something I don't intend to change, as it's too ingrained with the current level design. So I guess I'm sorry if you wanted there to be multiple aerial attacks. To me, it didn't feel as engaging, but to somebody else it might feel fine. But no, unfortunately, I'm not going to be changing this. Will there be power-ups in the game, or will you continue to expand Main's moveset? The current plan is to continue to expand Main's moveset as you continue to play through the game. I haven't had any ideas for power-ups in the traditional sense. Gimmicks can really make stages stand out, such as the second half of 1-2 being an auto-scroller. So they might take form in that sense rather than actually being an item you pick up. Is Naturina Single? I already know who this is. As far as I'm aware, Naturina is single. However, she seems preoccupied most of the time with tending to the world, pushing for a better future, you know? Not sure if that leaves times for a relationship, so your guess is as good as mine. Don't tell her I told you this. She has only shown feeling for one individual. She keeps their identity a secret. How many levels will be in a world? Will it be like the first world, where there are 3 stages, or will it vary? Now, the current scope of the game is to stay relatively small, as this is my first major project, and what I want to do is have 5 worlds, each with 2 stages and a boss stage, making 3 in total. As the game goes on, stages will get longer and naturally more complex, so hopefully they will feel worth a smaller number. Does Mein have a house? I know the market is rough right now, but I got to know if he's got a home to go to at the end of the long adventure. Glad to hear about your concerns, cause yeah, it is a rough time right now. Anyways, Mein is kind of a weird little dude. He lives in the forest of Longroot Lane. Since that is like the only place people can get a glimpse of him, no one really knows where he resides after dark or throughout most of the day. Honestly, I haven't really thought about anybody owning a real house, so I guess I need to consider that. How did you come up with Main's design and abilities? Oh boy, this is a long one. So initially, I just wanted to make something simple and easy to draw for my first project. As a huge fan of the Kirby series, I wanted to make something simple in concept but had enough details to stand out. After tons of small little round creature designs, we settled on a small guy with large ears and a short tail.
Brother,
Main's original design had cheekbones and a little bit of lankier limbs. We gave him gloves and shoes to fit with the other classic platformer characters of like the 90s. As time went on, we decided to emphasize the ears and other aspects of Mein more, to give him a bit more of a plushy feeling. This also plays into Main's basic ability of swinging his ears as a sword. Basic enough that anyone could understand, but cute enough that you would not think about it too hard. There's a few concepts for Main's basic attack. We had some ideas for like a puff air projectile to be shot out that would have different elements based on what you would pick up. Another concept was Mein having a dash attack that would kind of bounce off of enemies and walls. While it didn't really make too much sense, it just sounded like a cool thing to do. And then we also had one where he just had a sword, but eventually we settled on using his ears as a basic sword attack while trying to give it a little bit more of a cartoonish feel, make them elongate and morph however we wanted them to. We just kind of thought it was funny, but it also thematically makes sense with Main's design. If your game was on consoles, what would you want it to be on? I mean, the simplest answer would be to just save them all, so that as many people can give the game a try as they want to. But honestly, and this will not be a surprise, easily the Nintendo Switch and the Switch 2. Nintendo is a huge inspiration to me as a dev, and I think having something of my own on one of their consoles would not only be a good fit, but just feel like a lifelong dream. So far the game is only planned to be on itch and on Steam eventually, but maybe one day I'll be able to get it on a Nintendo system. If Mein had a voice, who would you want to voice him? This is most definitely a weird one, because I don't really see Mein having a voice soon. I imagine many would see Mein sounding more like Kirby or Pikachu with a brighter, sounding high-pitched voice. However, I never really imagined him sounding like that. The first person that came to my mind was actually Courtney Taylor, who's known for a lot of roles, but the first one I thought of was KO from OK KO Let's Be Heroes. It also helps that's one of my favorite shows ever, so that's the first thing I could think of. Some other voices that I've thought about is Pamela Adlon and Stephanie Nadoli. Not sure if any of these would really stick, but that's just the first thing that came to mind. Do you plan on having any unlockable bonus stages? Keeping the scope of the game in mind, it's hard to say what will be possible. The current plan is for us to improve replay value by giving the player a speedrun mode, where each stage will rank the player based on their time. This would naturally allow players to race each other and just kind of have fun, messing around with it a little bit more, while also not being too hard to develop. Also, I think I want a boss rush mode in the game, because it's just begging to happen. I love boss rushes, dude. Like, it shouldn't be too surprising considering I'm a Kirby fan, but the arenas are just really fun. However, since even the main game is far from completion, there's currently not plans to have many bonus stages, if at all. Although it would be really fun to create some small challenge stages that really test your skills. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. It's just kind of a wait and see, but I'll just go ahead and say no so I don't get your expectations too high. Are there plans to localize the game in other languages and territories? Since I want Mein to be as accessible as possible, I do want there to be some language options for people who might need that. I would love for this game to become more accessible in other territories, though I would need some help on that because I'm just kinda dumb and I can't translate anything. While I would need help translating everything to other languages, thankfully as of right now it's just adventure log text and tips that would need to be translated over. Though I have been debating about some short cutscenes maybe, which would all have dialogue and need to be translated, but that's far off, so we have no idea if that's actually going to make it in. If anybody would like to help, just let me know. Will Mein have a love interest? Honestly, I don't know. There is no plans for Mein to have a romantic relationship. This doesn't mean one couldn't show up later in development, or in another project. But in the current draft, no. Sorry if I burst your bubble or something, my fault. Now you got me wondering what Main's type is, actually. Like, I don't even know. Would you be open to an animated Mein miniseries? I do actually have shorts drafted out for Mein and some friends. Not sure in what form it will take. It might just be a novel, or it might just be like an actual short animatic or something, but it could be kind of fun. I've taken some animation classes, I have some animation friends, maybe we can make something work. Of course, we're not really at the point yet where I'm gonna start working on other projects like that, although this might be too large for Mein as of right now. A guy can dream. And the final question, what do you think Main's future will look like? Now let's see, how do I go about this without sounding over-ambitious? The future is releasing the game first and foremost. Like, that's like the most important thing right now. This project is gonna take a lot of work to get out there. And like I've said, there's no guarantee it will do well. Mein as a game was made to be the starting point of my game development journey. I've been trying to get something released for years at this point. With that in mind, I'm not positive what the future holds for Mein specifically, if it were to become a small series. I do have concepts and plans for a sequel, but the future is more about analyzing where I stand as a dev, and what I can do to make something really amazing. I do want to see how far I can push Mein, as plenty of people seem to like him, and I appreciate that, by the way. Cause I mean, hey, of course, I love my own character. He's a funny little guy. And if people just wanted more Mein, I'd be more than happy to make another game. And that wraps up the first official Q&A for Main's Quest. Oh my gosh, like, I've had these questions for so long and I just haven't recorded them. Jesus! I'm sorry it took so long. Maybe I won't apologize in one of my videos eventually. Thank you all very much for sending me your questions. Like I said before, I didn't get to every question that I wanted to because some of them do end up spoiling some of what's already in the game, and I want to keep some of that as a surprise for you guys when you're first playing. That is, if any of you really remember submitting these questions to begin with, because like I said, it's been almost a year. Admittedly, my schedule's been a little bit busy as of recent, but it's also not that big of a deal. Like I'll make more videos, obviously. I can still get to them. I'm actually working on my next video right now, which is going to be showing the difference between Main's Quest Demo 1 and Demo 2. I hope that my answers were funny or entertaining, I guess. I don't really know what else to say about that. I plan on doing another Q&A at some point, but you guys also need more things to ask questions on, so that's on me to get you guys more content. Anyways, as always, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.